In this session, I will talk about the Linux graphical environment and a couple of options that you have in this area. I hope you will enjoy it. So, a bit of history first. At the foundation of the graphical environment in Linux, there is a component which is called X window server. And first version of this product was called X386, and at some point later, from licensing aspects, it forked to another product called xorg. Sorry, and for actually quite a long time, this xorg was the X Windows server used by all the Linux distributions. The modern distributions do not use xorg anymore, and they use a product called wayland. Anyway, what is this X Windows server does? On one side, it manages video resources and sound resources. For example, it manages the display. It manages actually no, not. So what does this X Windows server does? On one side, it manages resources like display, the graphical card, and the monitor. So I have here my display. I can have actually multiple displays that can be managed by the same X Windows server, and it also manages mouse input and keyboard. So you have output on the display, and the keyboard and the mouse is the input. So okay, on one side it manages these resources, and on the other side it allows applications to access these resources. So if I have here an application, clock, let's say, that want to display on my computer, it will send a request to this X server. I want to display this graphical thing on your display, and also the server, if the application is accepting I don't know, commands from the user, from the keyboard or from mouse, the X server will send those to the application. So there is a bidirectional communication between the application and the X Windows server. And how the application is communicating with the X Windows server, also there are two important options here. One would be TCP. The X Windows server doesn't have to be on the same machine. That's actually a cool thing with the X Windows server. Doesn't need to be on the same machine with the application, but it also, and most of the time on your installation of Linux, it will use a socket file or something like that, Unix socket, let's say. So that's it with the X Windows server. This is what it does. It serves application with access to resources, display, keyboard, and mouse. All right. And also do not forget, it can work over TCP. So this is a cool and interesting thing because I can I can run my application. For example, I can SSH to a remote server here. Let's draw this with a different color actually. Let me say, all right, here is my remote server, a central server, which has all kinds of nice applications. Midnight Commander is one of those applications. Actually, Midnight Commander is useless because it's it's not requiring graphical interface. It's working with text. Um, I don't know, Firefox. I have Firefox here, and over here I have my local workstation, which is running X window server. So what I'm doing, or what I can do, is SSH over here and start this application, Firefox. The application will start and it will run here. It will consume resources of this machine, but it will send the output on my X window machine. So this is how I can work remote with an application. It's a bit backwards from the client-server model that you might be familiar with. Anyway, going further, let's do a new whiteboard. We said one of the component is this X window server. Right. The other very important component is the window manager. And let me explain also what the window manager does. For example, our clock application. If I'm starting this application, it will display on my screen. I'm starting the application without a window manager. So it will just display the clock like this. If I'm starting a window manager after this, a window manager is also a client of X Windows Server, but it's trying to do something a bit different. So when I will start the window manager, my application, my clock application, will get a nice top bar with the close and maximize and minimize buttons. It will get a scroll bar and some other graphical widgets that are specific to the window manager. There are multiple window managers. I will tell you about those in a moment. So this is one thing, actually, the main thing that the window manager does. If I don't have this, my application will be displayed on the screen, but I will not be able to drag it or close it from here. So not very useful without a window manager. And another important thing that a window manager does is managing the contextual menu. If you right click, for example, on your desktop, you might have a contextual menu like this, right, with multiple entries, and those are handled also by the window manager. There are other things that the window manager can do for you, but these are the main ones and the most important. Now, what options do you have for a window manager? Nowadays, it's not so important to know what window manager are you running, how the X Windows server is configured. In the old days, it was important. The configuration of the X Windows server was a bit tricky, and sometimes you needed to fiddle around with different options in order to support your video card and your monitor and stuff like that. Nowadays, you don't need to bother with all these things, but it's good to know what is a window manager and what these products are. So window managers can be ICE WM from window manager, I think. Fluxbox, OpenBox, Enlightenment, and some other window managers. There are actually quite a few, and these are simple window managers that you can run by yourself. And but the modern distributions, also these window managers do not consume too much resources. Anyway, the modern distributions that are providing a more rich experience, they are providing a desktop environment like KDE or GNOME, which is at version 3 right now, or Cinnamon. I don't know if I write it correct. Anyway, Mate. Cinnamon, for example, is based on GNOME 3. Mate is based on GNOME 2. There is another one a bit light, which is called Xface. It's written like this. There's a modern one which you will find in elementary OS, I think, which is called Pantheon. And some other desktop environments like this. Now, these desktop environments usually come with their own window manager, but we don't care so much about what the window manager is in this case because we don't have to configure it. We care about window manager if we want to build from scratch our, I don't know, not our own distribution, but our own installation, and we want it to tune the resource to perfection, let's say, and consume very few resources, and we might choose a window manager like this. There are also two window managers not so much used anymore, but they were spectacular in the days because they provided with 3D effects, like when you're switching from one app to the other, they were displaying a cube, and each face of the cube was an application or things like that. And this, I think, were called Compis. There was one, and there was another one, Beryl, I think, something like this. Anyway, these are things of the past mostly. You will find a couple of distros, lightweight distros, that are still based on single window manager, not in the context of a desktop environment. But anyway, this is the part with the window manager. Other things that are contributing to the graphical systems, they are not so important so much. Actually, you will find these things in different desktop environments. So one important thing will be the Explorer, for example, right? Pretty much that's the whole deal with the graphical environment. As I told you, now the good thing today is that you don't have to deal with all the difficulties of configuring specific the window manager or the X window server and stuff like that. It just works. Actually, there's another one component that I should mention here, and this is the display manager. Here you'll also see options like GDM from GNOME Display Manager or X Display Manager, which is a generic display manager, or KDM, I think, is the one from KDE. As you can see, each desktop environment comes with a specific display manager. And this display manager is actually the graphical login prompt that you see when you are logging on, and is able to start application in the back after you successfully authenticated, and it has some extended capabilities. But other than that, this is pretty much what I wanted to show you about the graphical environment. If you want to really understand the difference between these desktop environments and window managers, you really need to go and install specific distros that are using this kind of environments. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.